First of all, I need to give you a very warm and special welcome because you're all specially invited. This is not a general public programme. It is only for people who have been invited. And you've been invited, do you know why? Yeah, you're special people. Otherwise we wouldn't have bothered. Not true, but we don't discriminate. You're special in your own right, and you're also special because you're our special friends. And a lot of you have been supporting and helping the BKs in lots of different ways, over the years. And this is an opportunity for us to say thank you for all the things that you have done, for us, and all the things you're going to do in the future, of course. So thank you. So that's one reason why we're here, to thank you. The second reason why we're here is to enjoy the company and the wisdom of Dadi Janki. So she will be coming shortly, and she will later on share some of her wisdom with us all. And then the third reason why we're here, and you know the answer to this one without me having to say anything, why we're here? Sorry? Launch a book, yes. So we're going to be launching this book, which is called Living Our Values. You'll find out more about it later on.
This is just an excerpt from the whole piece on respect in the book, so it's not the whole piece, but in the book it starts with a quote from Lao Tzu, and I really like it, and so I'm going to start with that also, and then there's one or two quotes that are in this chapter which I'm going to sprinkle in. I will put my glasses on properly. When you are content to be simply yourself, and don't compare or compete, everybody will respect you. Respect is having the highest regard for someone or something, really valuing and appreciating their intrinsic worth. All respect begins with the self, recognizing the power and unlimited potential that lies within the being that is variously referred to as a divine spark, higher consciousness, spirit, or soul. Our original state of self-respect is based on the awareness of this inner self as a unique and precious entity. And when we experience this elevated consciousness, often referred to as self-realization, we develop faith in the self and a feeling of wholeness and completeness. This is true self-respect based on who we are rather than what we do. It colours not only our view of ourselves, but of all human beings who, regardless of their creed, colour or behaviour, share the same spiritual nature and makeup. The challenge. Self-respect is the foundation of self-confidence and self-esteem. It gives us the courage to stand up for our rights and to assert ourselves when necessary. It enables us to create happy, healthy relationships based on equality and mutual regard, rather than fear or force. We give our best and do our best because we want to, rather than because we have to. Conflict arises when the awareness of our original nature and that of others is lacking. And this happens when we leave our seat of self-respect. When the word self is removed from self-respect, the void is filled by a variety of desires or expectations designed to claim regard or respect from others. We become dependent on external forces rather than internal powers. If we stabilize ourselves in our elevated awareness of self-respect, then the regard of others will follow like a shadow. To develop such respect within the self and to express it in our daily life is one of our greatest challenges. Obstacles come to test the strength of our respect and self-reliance, often at the most vulnerable of times. Respect and humility. Humility is the companion of true self-respect. Although we appreciate and enjoy our original nature, we cannot claim credit for it, any more than we claim credit for being tall or good-looking. It's just the way we are. When respect for the self is balanced with humility, we're able to value individuality and appreciate diversity, whether political, religious, or cultural. And we also avoid debilitating attitudes such as arrogance and narrow-mindedness, which hurt us as well as others. The eminence of life is present in everyone, and every human being has a right to the joy of living with respect and dignity. And lastly, respect for nature. The splendour and mystery of the human soul is matched only by the power and glory of nature. The abundance and beauty of nature and the wonder of its finely tuned, interrelated mechanisms on which we depend for our survival and well-being fully deserve our greatest respect, appreciation, and gratitude. However, the forces of urbanization, industrialization, and relentless consumerism have broken the bond between us. And much of our behavior shows a complete lack of respect for the earth, its seas, and animal and plant kingdoms. To show such disrespect and to work against the laws of nature is causing huge ecological imbalances and natural calamities. Only when we once more give respect and reverence to the eternal energy of matter will this relationship be healed.
Thank you. So, or Om Shanti, as we say so. Most people will know what that means. If there's anyone who doesn't, Om means I am the soul, Shanti means I am peace, so I am a peaceful soul. So we're moving on now to the panel, and so I'm going to invite up the three panellists. I think you've already had some information about them via the leaflet. Jackie is going to be the first, Jackie Holder. So if you'd like to come and sit over there, please, Jackie. And Jackie is a great friend of the Brahma Kumaris. She's an interfaith minister. She's a very well-known coach. She's written lots of good books. And sorry, let's see here, please. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And she's been working all day, drove here, took quite a long time in her car, didn't arrive that long ago, so we're extra glad that you're here. As you can see, she's a very happy, positive person. Not at all stressed by driving through Chelsea, getting stuck in loads of traffic. And then we're going to have Ken, who's going to sit on this side of Jackie, and Ken is the regional coordinator of Brahma Kumaris for the whole of South America, and he's an amazing person because he left here many years ago, one of the original students of the Brahma Kumaris, and went to South America, not being able to speak a word of the language of I think is it Portuguese you speak? Is it Portuguese you speak? Didn't know a word, went over there, to start service, as we call it, and now there are many, many centres throughout the whole of South America. So to give up your job and go to a country you've never been to before, where you can't speak the language, speaks volumes for his many qualities, and not surprisingly, apart from being in the position he's in, he's also a very well-known international consultant who has, a management consultant, who has advised presidents and all sorts of other people, high-up people, I can't remember them all now, but anyway, so his wisdom is in great demand. And then on this side, we've got Achu, who's going to come up here, and he's the National Coordinator for Malaysia. It's just one of his roles. And apart from that, he's got this very impressive title, which I'll have to read out because I can't remember it. That is, he's the Director General of Biosafety in the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment. You can see why I had to read it out, can't you? And he has a special responsibility for GMOs, which is genetically modified organisms. Okay, so we're not going to have any questions about GMOs tonight. And then there's a fourth person who's coming up here to join the panel, and guess who that is? That's me. So, yeah. And I'm going to interrogate them, so I've got some thumb screws in my pocket, and I've got 3 questions to ask, and we've only got 25 minutes for the panel, so it's going to be fairly condensed. And the first question, which I'm going to be asking you all, very quickly as it were, a couple of minutes each or so, why are values so important? And we'll start off with you for this particular question, if that's right.
Thank you, John. To me, values are very important in life. How? I just like to give an example of the environment. See, the environment, we all can visualize that it is polluted. In China, in some seasons, they really have to put filter covering their nose and mouth. So that's protection. So similarly, today, the environment is full of negativity. There is no need to teach anybody. This is how you have to learn negativity. No need. Because the concentration of negativity in the environment is so high that despite you not wanting to learn, it just penetrates into you. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we need values. We need to have a policy that despite things are negative around me, I will remain positive. This is the power of values. So if I'm very strong about it, nothing negative outside will influence me. So what will happen? My life will always be positive, and I will always be forward-looking in what I need to do. Negative things can happen, but I won't get stuck in it. I will look at it positively and move forward. This is my understanding why values are needed.
Thank you very much. That was a very powerful and succinct answer. I think it deserves a clap. There we go. So we need a mask on to stop all this stuff from getting to us. Yeah, I like it. Good. Jackie, what would you like to say about values then?
Well, just to build on what has been shared so far, for me it was a really good question to be asked. And it really made me think about a word that, when I think about my work as a coach, values is a word that is used a lot in coaching. And when I think about what values mean to me, it starts for me in terms of being about our core. I'm empty without values. I cannot see myself, I cannot see you if I'm not connected to my values, if you are not connected to your values. And the relationship that I have with that, I thought about my day-to-day work when I'm in organisations working in a lot of further education colleges, and I run coach training programs for many of the managers. And it's very interesting when I have people in a group, they often hide or do not uphold their values. But when I speak to them on a one-to-one, that's when I begin to see lots of those values come into life. And for me, the values are like a moral compass, but they go beyond a moral compass in that they are a spiritual compass. For me, they guide the north, the south, the east, the west, of all those qualities that make us who we are. So for me, they hold a place. If I imagine a tree, my values seep up from the roots of that tree, and they allow themselves to come from the inside, and they go up the trunk and out the branches, and they blossom into allowing us to be ourselves in the world. So for me, they're fundamental, they're core, and they're at the centre of who we are and who other people are, and that's how we see each other.
Lovely, thank you very much. So we're all blossoming trees, so just imagine you're a blossoming tree and you've got lots of lovely fruit, and we'll talk about special fruits, aren't we? Not things which people can actually feel and enjoy in a very subtle way. Thank you. Ken?
For me, values are an expression of what we naturally are. And so, just as grass doesn't make any effort to grow, our expression of values shouldn't be an effort. It's probably because we don't believe that we are valuable, that we can't express them. And if we ask ourselves, what's the main arena for the expression of values, I think everyone would agree it's probably not finance, it's probably not even the environment, it's probably not health, but probably it would be relationships. So it's like, if there are no values in the expression of a relationship, the relationship is like a car without shock absorbers. It goes through all of the holes in the road, the bumps and cracks in the road. If there's no good suspension, you'll feel every single bump, right? If you've got good suspension, you'll still feel it, but much more smoothly. And when I was, once just recently actually, I was doing a talk at the, what's that sound? Hello? Yeah? No, it's working again. I went to do a talk at the central bank in Brazil, because I'd written a book called Human Values in the Workplace. And they were interested. And when I walked in, there was a big sign saying, there was a campaign about treating money with care. So that, because if you don't treat money with care, they have to print more and it costs money to print money. So they figured by this campaign they'd save about $30 million. So I thought this is a good angle. So I made a photocopy of a 100 real note, which is about $50. And I went in the middle of the talk, I pulled it out of my pocket and I said, anyone want this? Of course, 5 or 6 people immediately put their hands up. And if I do this, still want it? Yes, I want it. Then I threw it on the floor and jumped on it, picked it up. You still want it? Yes. Then I did the ultimate blasphemy. I tore it in half. And if I give it to you with some sticky tape, you still want it? I say yes. Because you can change it at the central bank, right? So what it says is that I have a value that doesn't matter if the world screws me up, if the world jumps on me, if the world tears me in half, I continue to have the same value.
Yeah, I can identify with that one, yes. Yeah, we all get battered around at times, don't we? It's nice to know it still works, sort of thing. Okay, so good. Thank you very much for that. So the next question then is a personal question. What is your most important value for you as an individual, and how has it shaped your life? So it's a big question, and you've got 2 minutes each in which to answer it. Starting with Jackie this time.
Well, I don't know if I can fill the 2 minutes, but I want to tell you about a moment I had when I first came in here. As I was thinking about which of the values is most important to me, as I was driving here today, I realised what it was, and it really, really sat with me. And I thought, this is the most important value for me right now, for where I am in my life. And that was the value of respect. So I thought, okay, that's the one that I'm going to talk about. And when I read the quote, when I picked up the book that you so kindly read today, when you are content to simply be yourself and do not compare or compete, everybody will respect you, that really, really resonated with me. And then John asked the question, what is the most important value? And I was sitting next to Ken, he was in my earshot, and I shouted out, the one that wasn't the value that I felt was the most important value. I shouted out, do you remember? I shouted out love. But that wasn't the value that I truly believed was the most important value. And I was very, very glad for that moment, because I think it's often through our mistakes, where we miss the mark, that it allows us to come back into realignment. For me, right there in that chair, I recommitted to what the value of respect actually means. It is profoundly important to me. It is profoundly important for me when I interact with people in my work, when I walk along the streets, and sometimes I see litter on the streets, and I think we're not valuing and respecting the environment, we're not respecting the earth. I see it in my interactions or other people's interactions with me. So for me, it is so fundamental. And when I go into organisations and I'm working with managers and leaders, this for me is fundamentally the value that is so important. And that's what I will be embedding from today.
Thank you. And then, what's your number one value and how does it influence your life in 2 minutes?
For me, the most important value is that I have to love myself. Because if I am not able to love myself, I myself will not respect me. I will always look at my negative things only. But if I am able to love myself by looking at the positive things in me, then what happens is I will also learn to give love to others, because I will not look at negativity. Many times, why we hate some people, we look at the negative things that happened in our life in regard to that person. And we always remember that kind of a negativity. Though that person, if I really look at it in a broad manner, will have many good things as well. Why I always look at people's negativity? Because I have not learned the method of looking at my own positive values. When I am not able to respect myself because I look at my negativity, and I look at others, I will only look at negativity. What is in me, that is what I will take out when I am dealing with people. So therefore, to me, most important thing is I must know myself, I must appreciate myself, I must love myself, and that's what I will give it to people. In that way, it brings a lot of transformation in me, it brings a lot of transformation in relationship and as well as in the atmosphere. So love is very important.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It's interesting, isn't it? Do you think you can just ask a quick question and get a wonderful answer in a very short space of time? So, over to you, Ken. I wonder what yours is. I'm dying to know.
No, really.
Is it loyalty to respect, or is
It's
it
asking what your favourite colour is. But I really feel that if something's natural for us, we probably won't recognise it as our favourite one. The favourite one is probably the one that we need to do some work on.
So which one are you working on at the moment?
Don't set myself up. I think at the moment what I'm really appreciating is harmony. And not the game that we often call harmony. Let's say I'm afraid and the other person's arrogant. So let's have a harmonious dance so that I can balance my fear with your arrogance. That's what we see often when people try to deal with harmony. It's not really harmony, it's a game. If I really am grounded in that innate core value, I am a valuable soul, I am a child of God, I have peace, love, happiness as my core resource internally, and how that comes out, I can make it easier for myself, or I can make it difficult for myself. And that definitely affects the way that I can really harmonise. So if I wanted to harmonise with you, really, it wouldn't be between my absence of something and your absence of something. Like, I'm afraid you're arrogant. Sorry, I'm arrogant, you're afraid. Whatever. And therefore we're sort of like a stork and a swan dancing.
Yeah. I'll see you outside afterwards.
It won't work. I can really see your value, and I'm grounded in my own value, then we can harmonise. So I'm really making efforts to do that.
Well, make effort to see my value.
Also,
Good.
right. Everyone's value.
Yeah. Okay, that's lovely. Thank you. Right, now the final question, and you've got 1 minute each for this. That is, what quality or what value does the world need the most at this time? Because the world is going through all sorts of things. It seems to be going into chaos. Every time we look on the telly or listen to the news, there's another disaster or there's another scandal or whatever, and nature is being wrecked. Poor old bees for a start. Not to mention these grey clouds. We've never had a May like this before, have we? Never cast a cloud till May is out. Wait, we won't cast a cloud until June or July is out because it's so cold. It's very unnatural. So there are things going on and we need something to help us all wellness. So which particular value? Very quickly, each one, 1 minute. Oh, we'll start with Ken, we'll come on to me. Yeah, okay. 1 minute.
I really think that the world needs understanding. To understand exactly the consequences of what we're doing and what we're thinking and the way we speak, I think understanding is the beginning of any change. If we don't understand, we can't even move one step. So, who am I? What am I? What am I doing? Why do I do what I do? I need to understand those things. Like the door that opens up a different world is the door of understanding. And in our relationships, I need to, more than anything, understand every single person I have to interact with, and understand that they are themselves in their own right. I am me, they are them. I have my role to play, they have their role to play. Understand that basic characteristic, and also in the interaction, speak to understand and not speak to be understood.
Yeah, very deep. Jackie.
Mine's very, very simple. I think it's hard to say one, because if you come with peace and you come with happiness and you come with honesty, then the values are all going to meet and we're all going to connect. So for me, it's about seeing all of those values, each one of those values living out in each one of us in whatever shape or form that allows us to be visible, to be understood, to be that presence of love, to show up and to be. So it's any one of the values in any one of us, for me, connects us together.
Thank you. Last but not least.
Thank you. I feel that what the world needs today is responsibility. Many people talk about what need to be done, and they've been talking about it for so long. No action taken. So it clearly reflects that people have not taken full responsibility. People always been blaming others, not blaming themselves. So if I take full responsibility, then if all the people take full responsibility, there is the driving force that we all have to do together. Not one person here, one person there, one group here, one group here. No, we have to do things together. That calls for responsibility of all the citizens of the world.
Yeah, I think you should stand for president. Yeah, this is what we need. Authentic people with great values who want to inspire and lead for the sake of the world and not just for their own self-interest. This is what's come out actually, is what I've picked up here. People speaking from the heart about things which really matter. When we take a step back and look at things objectively, we know this is really what it's all about. Do you agree? You've all been clapping in. It's all to do with what's in here, bringing what's in here out and all working together. So thank you all very much indeed. I know you didn't have much time, but you've given us lots of food for thought, and thank you. So.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Wonderful. Wonderful. मुझे पहला बारी कौन देख रहे हैं?
Daddy would like to know who's seeing Daddy for the first time.
बाकी इतने हैं. ठीक है. पहला ओम शांति है. मैं कौन?
First, Om Shanti, who am I?
ये अंगुली से अंदर जाओ.
The index finger with that going inwards, pointing to the self.
दूसरा ओम शांति ऊपर जाओ.
Second, Om Shanti, up above, referring to the
जैसे जाने
Supreme.
करीब बोला 1 मिनट साइलेंस, तो साइलेंस में ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग की जरूरत है.
Again, John was asking us to go into silence for 1 minute. So going into silence, we need to have real understanding. It's with understanding that you're able to have silence.
साइलेंस की वैल्यू है.
There's great value for silence.
तो क्या होता है? शक्ति आती है.
From silence, you're able to receive power.
शांत रहने से. मैं शांत स्वरूप हूँ.
I am an embodiment of peace.
तो बहुत सोचना करना ये फिनिश.
Then I don't need to think too much. All thoughts finish.
इसमें खुद की भी सेवा, जिनके संबंध उनकी भी सेवा, विश्व की भी सेवा.
Through that silence, I'm able to serve my own self, serve my people that I'm connected with, and also serve the world.
शांति है, शक्ति ऊपर वाले की है, तो हर समय स्मृति में रहता है मुझे क्या करना है.
I have peace, I'm receiving power from the one up above, and with that I'm always aware of what it is that I
एक
need
बात
to do
बहुत
now.
कहता है,
It's great benefit in one thing.
इसको ये करना चाहिए, इसको ये करना चाहिए,
Never thinking, well, this one should do this one should do this one should do this.
मुझे भी ये करना चाहिए, मैं करता नहीं हूँ.
I also should be doing this, but I'm not able to do it.
जिन्होंने वैल्यू पर बताया,
All of you who spoke about values, in fact, values is the foundation for everything.
मेरे को क्या करना है?
What do I need to do now?
जब शांति की शक्ति मिली है ना, तो जैसे लाइट बन गए, लाइट चलने की आ गई है.
Now that I've received the power of peace, I've become so light, I'm able to do everything with that lightness.
एक लाइट हल्का हो गया है चलने में.
When there is that lightness, you're able to move along easily.
वैसे कैसे चलना है समझा गई है.
Then you have the understanding and wisdom of how you have to move along in everything.
क्वेश्चन नहीं है कैसे करूं,
There isn't any question of how should I be doing something.
इसमें छोटी सी कहानी सुनाती हूँ.
I'd like to share a story with you.
हम पहले पंजाब में थी, तो ब्रह्मा बाबा ने मेरे बाबे बुलाया.
I used to be in Punjab, and then Brahma Baba, the founder, he called me to Bombay.
बॉम्बे में आओ. तो मैंने सोचा बॉम्बे में क्या जय करूं.
And I was thinking, what am I going to do in Bombay?
तो 10 दिन का प्रोग्राम बनाया बॉम्बे से, वो पंजाब से बॉम्बे आए. एक दिन बीच बीच में शो 13 बार आई.
The program was made for me to go from Punjab to Bombay and on a 10-day
क्या
trip.
परिवर्तन
And
है.
every day I was stopping at different places.
एक वो शहर का नाम अभी नहीं बताते हो, पता नहीं है आपको. तो उसमें रात को नींद ना आवे.
At one of those places, so I'm going to sleep at night, I wasn't able to
जीवन में
sleep.
वैल्यू कैसी हो.
Then I was thinking, what kind of values should I have in my life?
63,
I was writing down all of those things.
64.
And I wrote a list of 64 values.
बड़ा टेंशन अंदर बहुत अच्छा लग रहा था.
And I was feeling very good inside just thinking about these things.
वो वैल्यूज को मेरे जीवन बाबा को देखे बच्ची ने छावे के धारण किया.
And then seeing my life, I was feeling Baba would be seeing my life would filled with these values and think, yes, I've inculcated this very well in my life.
आज किसी बहन ने कहा मैं शिफ्ट हो गई हूँ. मैंने कहा शिफ्ट हो गई है, असलियत का पता चला.
This morning, Daddy was meeting someone, and one of the sisters, she said that she's feeling the shift in herself. And the sister herself was feeling that shift. So now it's like moving a step higher.
रियलाइज छूट गया.
The realization brings, with that realization, all falsehood, all artificiality finishes.
तो पीछे मैंने बाबा को बोला, बाबा मैंने आते आते थोड़ा ये ध्यान रखा है.
And then when Daddy came to Baba, she's told Baba, Baba, these are the things that I was paying attention to. And then Baba said, you have to make that list a little bit shorter.
तो बॉम्बे में ही साले में मैंने 36 कर दिया.
So then when I reached Bombay, I sat down again in silence, and from 64, I cut it down to 36. And those 36 values are written in the headquarters in Madhuban.
फिर जब न्यूयॉर्क में पहले प्रोग्राम था, पहले प्रोजेक्ट था मिलियंस का, फिर वहाँ ग्लोबल कोऑपरेशन का.
We had the international project Million Minutes for Peace Appeal, and after that we had another project, Global Cooperation for a Better World.
का शांति के मिलियन मिनट्स चाहिए.
We wanted to collect 1,000,000 minutes of peace from everyone.
मैंने कहा मैं दूंगी मिलियन.
And Dadi said, I would give you 1,000,000 minutes, first of all.
शांति.
Minutes of peace.
बड़ा अच्छा लगा ये.
And I really loved this project.
बड़ा जीवन में शांति की मिलियन मिनट्स है.
Experiencing, not just for the project, but within my own life, such minutes of peace.
सफलता हो गई ब्रह्मा कुमारियों की.
And that brought success to the Brahma Kumaris.
What is next?
The question arose, what to do
मेरे को
next?
एक्सपीरियंस है. अब इसका what is next?
Dadi always says, what's next? Once one thing is accomplished, what's next?
ग्रुप को में सहयोगी कैसे बने?
How to give cooperation to the whole world. How can everyone cooperate?
तब से लेकर के योगी और सहयोगी.
In Hindi, the two words are rhyme in yogi, the one who's connected in yoga, and Sahyogi being cooperative. So when there is yoga, then you're able to be cooperative.
सहयोगी.
Connecting with the one up above, and you're able to cooperate with everyone in the world.
सहयोगी जैसे अपने हारमोनी बोला वैसे सहयोगी.
Just as Brother had said, we need harmony, and the same way there has to be cooperation also.
मैंने देखा उसके बाद सहयोगी कमाल है. योग में पर्सन लगाना है.
Yoga is something I have to have personally for my own self, but I saw the wonder of the value of cooperation.
विश्व को सहयोगी बनाना, सहयोग देना.
To make the world cooperative and to give cooperation to the world.
ये नहीं सोचना पहले तो वे तो मैं दूँ ना.
Never to think first they have to give cooperation to me and then I'll cooperate. No, I have to give that cooperation first.
उसके रिजल्ट में ग्लोबल कोऑपरेशन हाउस बन गया.
And as a result of that project, today we're sitting in Global Cooperation House. It's a symbol of everyone's cooperation.
बचपन में ग्लोबल हॉस्पिटल बन गए.
As a result of that project, there was also the hospital opened in Mount Abu with everyone's cooperation.
और नैरोबी में बड़ा म्यूजियम बन गया.
Global Museum was
Same
opened
time.
in Nairobi at the same time.
वही सितंबर अक्टूबर नवंबर उनकी ओपनिंग हो गई. वही
The opening, inauguration of all three places at the same time. Global Cooperation House, Global
1991 की
Hospital,
बात है.
and Global Museum, September
1991 की बात है.
September 1991.
तो what is next?
What's next?
मुझे काम मिलता है.
That is given a task to do every time she finishes
मेरी
one.
बहन है. उसने कहा तुम 36 वैल्यू को 12 वैल्यू बना के दो.
One of the sisters works with the United Nations and she said 36 is a long list, you have to cut it down, you have to make it a list of 12.
12 है वैल्यू. कितनी वैल्यू होती है उसको?
So how many values have you got in the book? 12.
12 वैल्यू है ना. तो जितना गहराई में जाओ जीवन की वैल्यू बढ़ती है.
The deeper you go into these values, the more your life becomes valuable.
संकल्प की क्वालिटी बनती है.
Then your thoughts,
समय सफल होता है.
your thoughts become a higher quality and your
ऐसा संगठन देख
time is used in a worthwhile way.
खुशी मिलती है.
And then seeing such a gathering, you experience so much happiness.
तो वैल्यूज में हैप्पीनेस भी वंडरफुल है.
Within the values, the value of happiness is also wonderful.
जो आजकल हैरो में चाहे पता नहीं कहाँ का कल परसों प्रोग्राम था हैप्पीनेस को पावर चाहिए हैप्पी रहने का
That he was in South London yesterday, and the topic was the healing power of happiness.
वो कहीं नहीं आवे मैं खुश नहीं हूँ
There should never be a moment in my life when I'm not happy.
मैं खुश हूँ
I'm always happy.
वो खुश कैसे रहेंगे
How can I remain happy?
पहले अपने ऊपर अंदर ध्यान मुखरा देख ले प्राणी अंदर अपन को देखो
We have a beautiful song which says, "Oh mind, look into your own self.
अच्छी तरह
Mirror.
से देखो
Look into your own mirror. So look
ऊपर
inside.
नहीं
Not superficially, but go deep
इतना देखो
inside.
शांति और शक्ति और प्रेम के भी कुछ है नहीं
See inside, and you'll see that there isn't there anything there apart from peace, power, and love.
शांति शक्ति
Peace,
प्रेम
power, love.
फाउंडेशन है सच्चाई
The foundation of all of this is truth.
मेरे बहन बड़ी अच्छी लगी हुई है
I loved what
और मेरे से अच्छी रोज करना
Jackie shared. I would like to have first time that Dadi is seeing you.
शांति शक्ति प्रेम
Peace within the self, power from up
सच्चाई
above,
से
love with everyone, coming from
जो
truth.
सच्चाई का है ना दिल को हाथ लगा है
When you speak of truth and honesty, then you touch the heart. Comes from the heart.
दिल को मेरे साफ दिल है
To check within the self, is my heart clean?
किससे पृथ्वी ईर्ष्या से द्वेष भाव हो रही है
Check that there isn't any kind of jealousy or conflict with anyone.
कोई भी कारण से दिल साफ
You have to make sure that
हिम्मत
there's nothing that makes my heart unclean.
हिम्मत हमारी मदद भगवान की है
When I have courage, God helps.
दिल साफ है
It happens with a clean heart.
बस भगवान की मदद इतनी है जो उसका वर्णन करने बैठे सारी रात निकल गया
I've received so much help from God. If I was to sit and speak about all of that, the whole night would go by.
वो फिर इशारा करता है सच्ची दिल पर साहिब राजी
He then signals, when you have an honest heart, then He Himself, the Lord, is pleased with you.
समझा चले हिम्मत दे बच्चे मत
First, I, the child, have to have courage, and He will help. So I have to have that connection and relationship.
मदद उसकी है ना
How did it happen? It's with His help.
यहाँ जो मेरे जानते कोई 40 साल कितने साल से जानते हैं
People here have been known me for
मैंने कुछ नहीं
over 40 years. I really don't do
कुछ नहीं किया
anything.
है
I didn't do anything.
ये humility
This is humility.
ध्यान रखा है नहीं मिलता
Always paid attention to being humble.
यदि मेरा भाई बैठा है यहाँ वो नहीं बैठा नजदीक बैठे इतना प्रेम कैसे कोई मुस्कुराता है यहाँ नजदीक हो यहाँ बैठा है यहाँ हो मुंह दिखाओ अपना
Daddy let you to show your face first and then come and sit in the front
से
here.
जानता है कैसे जानता है
Hello.
मुंह दिखाओ
Daddy like you to stand up in front of everyone, show your face to everyone.
कब कब मिलता है पर मुस्कुराता है
It's not that often you come to meet Daddy, but every time you come, you're always smiling, always happy. How is one able to
अपने
smile?
घर शांत में बैठो पर मुस्कुराओ तो हो जाएगा
John was asking us to sit in silence, but seeing one another, we have to be in that happiness and smiling. So for a few minutes, few seconds, just smile, experience that happiness. When the heart is clean and you see yourself as a detached observer, when I've kept courage, I've received help from the Father. And that has been my experience throughout my life.
तो सच्ची दिल से साहब राजी है.
With my honest heart, the Lord has been pleased with me.
उसकी ताकत है.
I receive His power.
वो जो शक्ति है ना, दुनिया में फैल रही है.
And it's this power that's reaching across the world, spreading everywhere.
मुझे पता नहीं था सारे विश्व में सेवा करने का मुझे भाग्य मिलेगा.
I didn't ever think about or dream that I would have this opportunity to serve the whole world.
विश्व में कोई कोना नहीं जहाँ सेवा का चांस नहीं मिला हो.
I don't think there's a single corner in the world where I haven't had the opportunity to serve. I've just traveled across the whole globe to service.
लंदन को, फ्रांस, स्पेन, स्कॉटलैंड.
London was the base, and from there that he traveled to so many countries, in fact the whole world.
कोई निमित्त बनते रहे.
There have been brothers and sisters who have been instruments to invite me there.
तो वैल्यूज में हिम्मत थे बच्चे, हिम्मत बड़ा काम करते हैं.
And the values, courage has also worked a great deal.
फिर सच्ची दिल है ना, तो जो संकर बात है साकार हो जाता है.
When you have an honest heart, then whatever thoughts you have, they're able to become practical.
मैंने दिन में देखा तो बैठा था जेमनी मोरन के साथ, पर मुझे प्रोग्राम पता चला है आधा घंटा पहले 6:30 बजे.
Then he was seeing John upstairs, meeting Sister Jimmy and Sister Maureen going through the program. But Dadi was only told about the whole program a short while before coming here. But I'm still very happy to be present in front of all of you.
तो मैंने जयंती बहन को कहा मेरे समझे मेरी खुशी का जो अकाउंट है ना कोई अकाउंट जो नोट करे.
Dadi would like to hire an accountant who is going to work out the amount of happiness that she's accumulated. She has so much happiness accumulated that you get tired counting how much she has.
खुशी है खजाना, खुशी है खुराक.
Happiness is a treasure, happiness is nourishment.
खुराक की शक्ति है.
And this is so nourishing, it gives you so much power and strength. Is that right?
और खजाना
Such a treasure store. The more you give to others, the more you share, the more it increases.
तो किसी कोई मेरे पूछता है ये तुम कहाँ से ले आती हो?
Someone asked me, where did you get this from?
देने वाला दाता है.
The bestower is given to me, and I've never actually asked him for it.
मांगा नहीं है. कहीं आज भी किसका फोन आया मेरा पे मुझे आशीष करो. अरे मांगो नहीं ना.
Today someone phoned Dadi and said, I need your blessings, but Dadi said, you don't have to ask for it.
तो ऊपर वाले मांगना नहीं, मेरे से मांगो नहीं.
The one up above also says, you don't have to ask me for blessings.
तो मिलता रहता है.
You just continue to receive them.
फिर जितना बांटो ना बढ़ता रहता है.
The more you share it with others, the more it increases.
ये गुप्त
This is
परमात्मा बाप की न तो मदद है तो कहता है देखती चल तू तो प्रैक्टिकल कर मैं कमाल को दिखाऊंगा मैं करके दिखाऊंगा
this is
करके
the
दिखाऊंगा
this is the incognito help that I received from the Supreme Father, and he says all you have to do is just continue to do whatever you're doing, and I will continue to help. That's the relationship
आपको तो
working.
सोचना नहीं है पर प्रैक्टिकल
I don't have to think about anything, but it's happening practically.
अभी आज जो ये संगठन हुआ है मैं समझती हूँ प्रैक्टिकल करने की प्रेरणा मिली होगी
I'm sure all of you who come to this
तुम्हें अच्छा
gathering
लगा वो नहीं चल रहा
would be taking back with you some kind of inspiration
आप तो समझ कर आज प्रैक्टिकल करने की प्रेरणा मिली है
that you would like to
प्रेरणा
know.
मिली है
If anyone here has received some practical, some inspirations to do something practically in their lives, what that has been sharing, what you've been hearing from their brothers and sisters, everything, something that's touched you and inspired you to do, bring about some change. Raise your hands high.
प्रैक्टिकल में करने से
It's by doing practically that God becomes happy.
मैं तो कहेंगी प्रैक्टिकल करने से बहुत फायदा हुआ है
Really, I've also benefited a great deal by doing all of these things practically.
कोई ये तो नहीं कहेगा दुनिया में कहने वाले बहुत है करने वाला कौन है
I'm sure there isn't anyone here who will be saying that in the world there are so many people who speak of these things, but who is really doing them practically.
कहने वाले बहुत है
Many people speaking about it, but very few who actually do something.
प्रैक्टिकल लोगों को चाहिए
Because now people want to see practical
इसमें
examples.
विश्व को मिलेगा
Definitely the world will see such examples.
ओके टाइम अनुसार तो राजू मेडिटेशन करा
So now we'll have a few minutes of meditation. We'll reflect on what Dadi has been sharing with us. Sitting comfortably. Relaxed. Focusing the attention on the center of the forehead. If you can, looking at Dadi in the center of the forehead, or otherwise even the picture, the point. Forming a connection. I, the soul, a being of peace. A being of love. Filled with power. Received from my Father, the Supreme. The one who is my constant companion. Helping me, guiding me at every step. He is the truth. I, the soul, his child, also a being of truth. Truth is my companion. At every step, truth is showing the light. Seeing my own truth. Seeing God, the truth. I'm able to see everything filled with the power of truth. All falsehood finishes. All artificiality finishes. All darkness is dispelled. The world is filled with light. The light of my own truth. The light of God, the Supreme, enables the world to become a place filled with lightness. Such lightness, everything becomes so easy. There's no difficulty. I'm able to be my own true self, the being of love, the being of happiness, sharing this love and happiness with one and all.
Thank you, Daddy. So, if you'd like to just wave one hand rather than speak, just wave a hand, just as a form of appreciation. And we're reaching the final part of the program, and now I'd like to invite Sister Janki to come up on the stage, and she's going to tell us a bit more about the book. And so I'll be handing over to her. So Sister Janki, for those of you who don't know, she's the European Director of the Brahma Kumaris, and really she has been with Dadi in the UK right from the start. She's translated for Dadi. She's been all over the place with Dadi. She's learned huge amounts from Dadi, and she's an amazing soul with a great intellect, very articulate, and she will carry on inspiring you as Dadi has done. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good evening and Om Shanti. It's a beautiful book and it's a gift to the world, and it contains the essence of all our teachings, the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding, and really, if you want to become perfect, read this. Well, hopefully, whatever you're reading, you're reflecting and it's coming through into your life for sure. But yes, there's a very brief history, and Dadi mentioned it a little here, that it began life, the first version was when it was called Living Values, a guidebook. And that book was translated into many languages across the world, and it had come from a project which was called Sharing Our Values for a Better World. And when we went to the UN saying that we'd like to honor the UN for the 50th anniversary way back in 1995, at that time they said, yes, well, what would you like to do? And we said we'd like to write a book on values. And their question was, whose values? And we said, universal values. And they said, no such thing. And we said, hold on, we'll come back to you. And so we did a draft and took it to them. And they said, yes, these are universal values. And the definitions for things that were very universal. And so the first print run actually carried the logo of the UN, because it was dedicated and in honor of the UN. They said, well, what's the connection? We said, well, when you look at the preamble of the UN and you see the awareness of the dignity of every human being, well, the dignity of every human being depends on their values, and so this is why we'd like to do this book. And this, the sharing of the values came from another project, Global Cooperation for a Better World, which came from the first project, Million Minutes, that Dadi was telling us about. But the project, Global Cooperation, ran for 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, then we collected all the visions that people had been sharing through that whole project. And I won't tell you the detail, it's too long. But people came up with a statement which they described, which we then described as the vision of a better world. And within that were 12 points which described all the different values that people had mentioned. Because when we asked people, how do you see your better world? They didn't talk about science or technology or things like this. They spoke about values. And this was universal. The most interesting was when we ran this project in Israel and people came up with values, and we ran the same project in Jordan. And guess what? No difference. People came up with identical values. So this is why when we'd gone to the UN, we knew for sure we had absolute grassroots proof that values are universal and they're the same values. And at that point, when the project was completed, we then published a book called Visions of a Better World, which puts together some of the visions that people had shared in art form, in poetry, beautiful prose, many different ideas. But another very interesting thing happened there. Dadi's mentioned the 12 values that the book contains. And when the values were being given by people in terms of their vision, that would have been, I think, around 1990. that was done. And when we came to the subject of sharing our values for a better world, we actually asked people in 66 countries across the globe to tell us what were the most important values for them. And they came up with a list of 9 that were absolute consensus. Then the other 3 weren't, then different people had different ones to share. But the first 9 were total consensus. And so that's a bit of the history. And one main thing that comes across is, how can we use our collective wisdom to create a better world? And the answer, I think our panelists shared very beautifully. It's values in action that are the root for change. And we can make it happen, definitely. The vision of a better world is something that each one of us holds very dear in our hearts, and we can make it happen. And so the purpose of this particular book, it's intended for individuals and also organizations, groups, communities, families, schools, different situations where people can actually look at this and use this and see how they can develop that culture of values within their particular situation. You must be wondering, what are those 12 values? And I'm sure if we spent a few minutes, we'd be able to get those values from this gathering. But just to make you aware of them in a minute: cooperation, freedom, happiness, honesty, humility, love, peace, respect, responsibility, and simplicity, tolerance, unity. These were the 12 values that were coming up. And if each one of us connects with values in that core space that Jackie spoke of, and that Dadi's been talking about in terms of silence, then surely connecting with that, experiencing that, learning to express it in our actions and interactions, we'll definitely create a better space for us every single day, and together we'll definitely create a better world. So this book has 3 specific sections, and the intention is that as you explore the values, because the first part is the exploring of our values, you heard the beautiful poem that described respect. Well, I had the good fortune of reading that part of the manuscript as I was traveling from one place to another. And every time I read those descriptions, they really touched something deep in my heart. And very beautiful examples and metaphors have been given. I'll tell you one that I remember very, very well till this moment. Think about birds and birds when they fly. And I didn't know this, but apparently when there's a flock of birds that fly together, then the space they cover within a particular period of time is double the amount of space they could travel if it was a bird alone. Mm-hmm. And so just imagine, that's what the power of cooperation does. And so when I read that, and I didn't read this today, I must have read it whenever you gave me the manuscript, John. That was a long time ago, a couple of years ago, but you can see that things like that stick in your mind and in your heart. So it's a lovely example, and so each of these values is described very beautifully. Section 2 is think about it, and those are the tools for personal change and transformation. And so it's focusing on the individual, but it's explaining the concepts and offers tools and methods that build spiritual capacity and sustain positive change. And the third section, making it happen, workshops and activities for collective change. And this is really for facilitated group sessions for participants to identify ways to live their values at home, at work, at school, in the community, in the world. And of course, the environment has also been touched upon in this. And so there's activities that are suggested for seminars, for dialogues, for creative groups, various other things that you're all aware of. The cover. You'll see a point on that image, and in the center of this is the point. Sister Jesu asked you to focus on the point in a meditation. So there's a point of light in here, which is actually the form of the soul. And so, does this look like you? It does indeed, actually. Because this is the image of every single soul. And then there's a box. But the idea is that when the soul really is shining and the soul has developed its inner capacity, then it's able to step out of the box. And so whether the box is my body, my position, my designation, my community, my race, my religion, whatever it may be, but to be able to allow the soul to shine and go beyond all the limits and limitations that always come in front of us in life. There's a whole list of people that have been listed here to give thanks to, but in particular I want to mention Gayatri Narayan and Anthony Strano, who were the people who actually did the research and extrapolated the definitions of the values from many, many years of teachings that have been shared at the university. I won't mention all the other names of the people who contributed in terms of inspiration and workshops and so on, but I definitely want to mention Ken, because Ken contributed to this. Margaret Barron, she wrote the appendix on meditation, and in particular, John. It takes 9 months to create and sustain and give birth to a baby, but this took many, many more months. And so, John, you're a world mother. So,
a lot of hard labour.
now you get a little bit of an idea. I've been showing this book to you, but in fact what I'd like to do is to present the book to the person who gave us so much inspiration from the very first international project all the way through till the production of this book. So, always carry hope in your heart, and it's the angel of hope.
Living with values, I think, is a very thing, especially as a young adult. Living the values that my parents taught me, and then going through adolescence and those values being eroded by getting into the wrong, if you like, circles, and then experiencing the emptiness and hollowness that you do, and seeking, if you like, happiness from a materialistic level, which never really came. And then purely by chance, encountering the Brahma Kumaris, a lot of those values have been reinstilled, and so much more. So I think it's really, really important, especially for the youth of today, because I think we live in a society which is actually quite spiritually redundant, I think.
I always think that virtues, once I live them, they become values. And values really is the bedrock of my life.
And is there one particular value that you hold maybe closer to your heart than the others?
Yes, well, I really love respect, from the point of view that I was really inspired tonight by the book, the front of the book, because it said, once you shine inside, you move outside the box. And when I have self-respect, I value myself, and I don't compare myself with others. I just see myself as that valuable being of peace and love and happiness. And I also value others in the same way. I see them as beings of peace, love and happiness. And one of the little phrases I loved tonight, or what Dadi Janki said, was, I have peace within, I have power from God, the Supreme, and I have then love for everybody. So that really touched me tonight.
And how do you think this book might have an effect, as it goes out into the community? What effect do you think this book might have?
Yes, I think it'll have a great effect, because values are, common to everybody. They're universal values, and we had the books for children, values in education, values in healthcare. But this is very succinct, as far as I can see. It's something someone can pick up and go through it and apply it in their own lives, I would imagine. So it won't be, such a lot of a whole program, like of, several books. It's just one nice book with a beautiful cover on it that depicts the soul.